Please like, share, and subscribe. Wishing you happiness and good luck every day.
All right, let's talk about a concept that is so powerful it could literally change the entire path of your business. We're going to break down the game-changing idea from Alex Hormozi's book, 100M Offers. It's all about how to create one single offer that can unlock just massive, massive growth. Now that is the core promise of the book, and you gotta admit, it's a bold one. This isn't just about writing some clever marketing copy. Nope. It's about completely reframing how you think about value, how you think about price, and what you promise your customers. The whole goal is to make saying yes a complete and total no-brainer for them.
So how do we even get there? Well, Hormozi starts by talking about a feeling that, every entrepreneur knows deep down, that constant feeling that you're in a high-stakes casino and you're really not sure if the odds are in your favor.
I mean, think about it. Every single day, you're placing bets. You invest in your team, you spend a ton on inventory, you pour money into ads, and you're doing it all with the hope that it's going to pay off. And yeah, sometimes it does, but a lot of the time, it just feels like you're rolling the dice. But this is where Hormozi points out a super important difference. See, in a casino, the house always wins. The game is literally designed for you to lose in the long run. Business, though, that's different. It's not a game of chance. It's a game of skill. And it's a game where you can get so good that you fundamentally change the odds in your favor. And this is what leads to this incredibly powerful shift in your mindset. Instead of just being a player at the table, hoping you get dealt a good hand, you can actually learn how to become the house. And that's really the whole idea. With enough skill, you can pretty much guarantee that you're going to win. You stop hoping for success, and you start engineering it. It's all about taking control of the game, instead of just letting the game control you. Okay, so if it all comes down to skill, then what's the single most important skill to master? Well, according to Hormozi, it's the ability to create what he calls a grand slam offer. This is that one perfect swing that can win the entire game for you. Now, a grand slam offer isn't just a discount or some little feature. No way. It's a carefully built package. We're talking pricing, massive value, guarantees that reverse all the risk, and even a powerful name, all of it working together to create something your ideal customer just cannot say no to. And the name itself? It's a nod to this quote from Jeff Bezos. He's talking about how unique business is, where some bets have an almost unlimited upside. It's not like sports. The potential for a massive win is just on a completely different level. And this comparison just illustrates that point perfectly. In baseball, a grand slam is amazing. It's the best you can do, but it's capped. 4 runs, that's it. In business, though, a grand slam offer can be so successful that it pays for every other failed attempt and can set you up for life. It's not just a win. It's a legendary, game-changing victory. And listen, this isn't just some nice-sounding theory. Hormozi backs it up with his own numbers. A 36-to-1 return on ad spend. Just think about that for a second. For every single dollar he put into advertising, he got $36 back. That's a 3,600% return, and it's built on the back of crafting these unbelievable offers. This, right here, is the ultimate promise of this whole idea. It's so encouraging. You don't need 100 wins. You don't have to get it right every single time. You just need to connect perfectly once. One truly irresistible offer can completely change your business and, honestly, your life. Okay, so we get the what and the why, but what about the how? How do you actually sit down and build one of these things? What does the framework for an offer this powerful even look like? Well, lucky for us, Hormozi lays it all out. He gives us this powerful roadmap. He breaks the whole process down into 5 really clear sections, guiding you all the way from where you are now to having a fully executed Grand Slam offer. It all kicks off with pricing, right? You got to escape that trap of being seen as just another cheap commodity. Then you stack the value. You solve every conceivable problem to get your customer their dream result. After that, you enhance it with things like urgency and bonuses, and you use these powerful guarantees to completely remove all the risk. And finally, you execute. You put it all together and get it out into the market. All right, let's take this out of the book and make it real for you. How can you start thinking about building your own Grand Slam offer, like right now? Here's a quick 4-step framework you can use today. First, start with the end in mind. What is your customer's ultimate dream outcome? Step 2, list out everything, and I mean everything, that gets in their way. Step 3, your offer is simply the bundled solution to every single one of those problems. And finally, you enhance it. You wrap it with guarantees, urgency, and bonuses that make it absolutely impossible to say no.
So we'll leave you with this one question. It's the ultimate test of a Grand Slam offer. What is the one thing you could guarantee that would make people feel stupid saying no? Because if you can answer that, you're not just selling a product or a service anymore. You're selling a certainty. And that is an offer that's truly hard to refuse.
So what happens when you hit absolute rock bottom? And I mean really, truly rock bottom. Imagine losing your life savings, finding out your mom is in critical condition, and totaling your car, all in the same month. It sounds like a Hollywood script, right? But this is a true story. And it's a story about how mastering just one single skill can pull you out of the deepest, darkest hole and completely change your entire life. Let's get into how it all went down.
Okay, so picture this. It's Christmas Eve, 2016. The scene is a dark, packed movie theater. But the guy we're talking about, he isn't watching the movie. No, he's living through his own personal nightmare.
You can almost feel it, can't you? That sticky floor, the smell of old, buttery popcorn hanging in the air. It's just this grimy, uncomfortable setting, which honestly is the perfect reflection of the absolute chaos that's going on inside his head. He's supposed to be there with his girlfriend Layla's family, but really, he's a million miles away, just staring at a blank screen.
Now, weeks of just relentless, nonstop stress had taken a huge physical toll on him. He wasn't really eating, and you could see it. His face was pale, his features looked sharp and gaunt. And while everyone else is, lost in some Christmas movie, his girlfriend Layla, she knew something was seriously wrong. So she reaches over in the dark, takes his hand, and just feels his wrist. And what she says next kind of cuts right through the noise of the theater and just gives a voice to the terror he's feeling inside. She just whispers, "Your heart is racing."
She takes his pulse right there. It's 100 beats per minute. Now, for a healthy 27-year-old just sitting in a dark room, it should be closer to, half that. This wasn't holiday excitement. This was the physical proof of pure, absolute fear. So you gotta be asking, what on earth could have pushed him to this point?
Well, to really get what's happening in that theater, we have to rewind a bit. This whole crisis wasn't just a bad day. It was the climax of a catastrophic 30-day period where literally everything that could possibly go wrong did.
It was like a terrifying set of dominoes, just one falling right after the other. First, his business partner just disappears with $46,000, money from selling his gems, basically his entire life's work. Gone. Then, he gets the call that his mother has been in a near-fatal accident. And as if that's not enough, to top it all off, he gets into a head-on collision that completely totals his car, just a complete and total meltdown of his life.
But believe it or not, that wasn't even the final blow. The thing that really pushed him over the edge, that happened just hours before he sat down in that movie theater. And it all came down to a single, devastating phone call.
So he's on the phone with his payment processor, and he's desperate. He just had a killer month of sales, the one tiny bright spot in all this darkness. But the voice on the other end is so cold, so corporate, and it delivers a line that's about to change everything.
They were freezing his money, all of it. $120,000 in sales that he was banking on to pay his team to just survive. It was gone. They were going to hold it for 6 months as a precaution. He begged, he argued, it was no use.
He hangs up the phone completely numb and looks at his bank account. He has just over 23 grand left. That's it. But he owes his top salesman, a guy with a baby and another one on the way, a $22,000 commission. And without even hesitating, he does something most people wouldn't. He wires the money.
And this right here is the moment he officially hit rock bottom. This isn't a stock photo, this is the actual screenshot from his phone that night. Check out that available balance, $1,036. That was all he had left his name in the entire world.
So he tells Layla everything. He lays it all out. That he has nothing left, that he's a sinking ship, and that she should probably just leave him. And her response is just incredible. She looks him right in the eye and says, "I would sleep with you under a bridge if it came to that." In his absolute darkest moment, she was his anchor.
So, with just $1,000, a girlfriend who believed in him more than he believed in himself, and an insane amount of pressure, he decided to make one last all-or-nothing bet. A true Hail Mary pass with his entire future riding on it. I mean, look at the situation.
On one side, you've got Layla's support, an old credit card with a $100,000 limit, and this idea for an offer that he was convinced was irresistible. But on the other side, he had to launch 6 new clients at the same time with zero cash and these massive daily expenses. The odds were just ridiculously stacked against him.
The day after Christmas, he turns on his ad campaigns, and right away, he starts going into debt at a rate of $3,300 every single day. Every day, who's just digging himself into a deeper and deeper hole on that credit card with absolutely no guarantee that it would ever pay off.
But what happened next? It's almost unbelievable. This all-or-nothing gamble didn't just work, it led to one of the most explosive, insane business turnarounds you will ever hear about.
Now, this is really cool. What you're looking at here is the actual processing record from that very first month, January 2017. You can see it right there on the right, over $100,000 in revenue. It was just enough to cover all that credit card debt. The Hail Mary was caught. The concept was proven.
And from that moment on, it just exploded. Within a single year, the business was doing $1.5 million a month. The year after that, it grew to $4.4 million per month. In just a few years, they blew past $120 million in total sales. And it all started from that one single desperate bet. So how, right? How does someone go from $1,000 and a full-blown panic attack to a portfolio of companies doing over $1 million a week? Well, it all came down to him getting exceptionally good at one specific thing. In his own words, he admits to all his flaws and all the mistakes he made, but one thing made all the difference. He says, "The skill of making offers saved me from bankruptcy and likely saved my life." That was it. That was the key that unlocked absolutely everything.
And he calls this skill creating a grand slam offer. The definition is so simple but so powerful. It's an offer so good, people feel stupid saying no to it. This isn't just about, a simple discount. It's about stacking so much value through things like insane guarantees and valuable bonuses and a unique solution to a really painful problem that the price just seems like a total no-brainer in comparison. That was the secret weapon.
It's just an incredible story of resilience, right? But it also leaves us with this really powerful question to think about for ourselves. What if mastering one single skill, the right skill, could be the key to changing everything for you too?
So, what if I told you that the key to massive business growth, the real freedom you signed up for when you became an entrepreneur, could all be boiled down to a single powerful sentence? Well, in this explainer, we're going to break that exact idea down.
And boom, here it is. This is the sentence. Coined by a guy named Travis Jones, this one idea is the foundation for everything we're about to cover. See, it's not about being some slick salesperson or building complicated marketing funnels. It's about crafting something so valuable, so absolutely irresistible, that the choice for your customer becomes a total no-brainer.
All right, so where does an idea this simple yet this powerful even come from? Well, it wasn't dreamed up in a fancy boardroom. It actually starts with a pretty personal story of anxiety and discovery. A story about being young, broke, and feeling completely and utterly out of your depth.
I want you to picture this for a second. You're 23 years old. You're in a Las Vegas penthouse, and you're surrounded by these super successful entrepreneurs who are all talking shop. You're wearing one of the only 5 shirts you actually own, and you just feel like a complete and total fraud. Well, this was the reality for the author when this whole journey kicked off.
I mean, can you imagine the pressure? He'd scraped together $3,000 that he absolutely did not have just to be in that room. And he's hearing all these acronyms like KPIs and CPLs, and his head is just spinning. He's nodding along, pretending he gets it, but inside he is completely lost. And I'm sure we've all been there, right? Feeling like the dumbest person in the room.
And then, right in that moment of peak anxiety, a mentor spots him. He kind of pulls him aside and asks this really simple question that would just change everything. Do you want to know the secret to sales? Now, this kid had never sold a thing in his life, so of course he leans in, ready to soak up every single word. But here's the kicker. The mentor didn't give him some complicated formula or a 10-step process. He just shared those simple words we saw a minute ago. And in that moment, for the author, everything just clicked. It wasn't about him having to become some amazing salesperson. It was about changing the offer itself.
And just like that, the entire burden shifted. It was no longer about his personal ability to persuade someone. The focus was now totally on creating an offer so undeniably good that the product could pretty much sell itself. The greatest game of his life had just begun.
Okay, so that's a great story. But how does this one idea actually solve the real-world problems that almost every single one of us business owners face? Because that feeling of anxiety he had in that penthouse, it connects directly to the struggles a lot of us are feeling right now.
Look, when you strip away all the noise and the complexity, it almost always boils down to these two things, what the author calls the two big kahunas. You either don't have enough clients coming in the door, or you don't have enough cash, enough profit at the end of the month. And let's be honest, it's usually a painful mix of both.
So what happens when you're facing those problems? You get desperate, right? You start thinking, maybe if I just lower my prices, I'll get more customers. And that's how you get sucked into this dreaded race to the bottom. You end up working way more for way less money, and the vicious cycle just keeps on spinning. I mean, isn't this the classic entrepreneur's trap? We start businesses to escape the 40-hour work week, to get some freedom, but the reality for so many is that they just trade it in for a 100-hour work week, where they barely scrape by. It's a truly crappy trade, and it's definitely not the freedom any of us signed up for.
So how do we break out of this trap? Well, the solution lies in understanding the one thing that starts every single customer relationship. We've got to get crystal clear on what an offer actually is.
Okay, so what is an offer? Put simply, it's the deal. It's the whole package, the goods and services you're providing, how you take payment, all the terms of the agreement. It is the very first point of exchange with a customer, which makes it the absolute lifeblood of your business.
And you have to understand, this is everything. Like no offer, no business, period. A bad offer, that leads to a struggling business and, frankly, a miserable life. The quality of your entire business and your life as an entrepreneur is a direct reflection of the quality of your offer. It's that simple.
So if a decent offer just gets you stuck, what's the alternative? This is where we get into the really cool part. This is where we introduce the concept of a grand slam offer. This is the key to finally breaking free. Just look at the difference here. It's not even close. A decent offer gets you basically nowhere. No profit, a stagnant business. A good offer, well, it's just okay. But a grand slam offer, that's where you get fantastic profit and insane business and the freedom we've been talking about. The gap between just good and a grand slam is absolutely massive.
And let's be super clear here. This isn't just some clever marketing term. A grand slam offer is the direct solution, the antidote to those two big problems we talked about. It's the one change that gets you more clients and more cash, and it breaks that negative cycle for good. All right, I know what you might be thinking. Grand slam offer. Sounds big, sounds complicated, right? But the absolute beauty of this whole approach is its simplicity. Focusing on your offer is the single most powerful, highest leverage thing you can possibly do in your business. And look, this isn't just some abstract theory he cooked up. This is the real deal. This exact principle is the bedrock of the author's incredibly successful investment company, Acquisition.com. This framework has been proven to work time and time again at the absolute highest levels.
I mean, their entire business model is basically one giant grand slam offer. Think about it. First, they just give away a ton of immense value for free. That, in turn, helps other entrepreneurs make more money and grow. That whole process builds deep, authentic trust with the top performers in the industry. And then finally, they invest in those proven businesses to help them scale. It's a perfect flywheel, and it's all built on this one principle.
And this is maybe the most empowering part of the whole thing. You don't need to go restructure your entire company or learn some vague, complex management theory. Redesigning your offer is something you can literally do right now, today, and it can have an almost immediate impact. It is highly, highly actionable.
And hey, let's not beat around the bush. In the author's own words, this isn't some academic fluff. This is the real, how you sell stuff for lots of money type stuff. It's the practical, rubber-meets-the-road strategy for generating real profit and building a business that actually works for you, not the other way around.
So I'm going to leave you with this question to really think about. We all start our businesses for a reason, right? Usually it's for some kind of freedom. So what if the path to getting that freedom isn't more complexity, or more hours, or more stress, but simply a better offer? What if that's the one domino you need to push over to change everything?
Have you ever looked at a business and just wondered, how are they growing so fast while everyone else seems to be stuck? Well, the secret? It's not always about working harder. It's about working smarter by creating a fundamentally better offer. So let's break down how you can build an offer that makes you the only logical choice for your customers. The first step is really just a shift in mindset. Steve Jobs' famous mantra, think different, is the perfect place to start. If you want to see massive growth, you've got to stop playing by the same old rules as everyone else in your market. Okay, this might sound a little harsh, but it is a critical truth. So many entrepreneurs think they can just maintain their business, just keep it steady. But in a market that's always moving forward, standing still means you are actually falling behind. Maintenance is a complete myth. Stagnation, that's just a slow death. So what's causing the stagnation? Well, for most businesses, it's getting caught in something called the commodity trap. And this is what happens when your customers look at you and just see another option in a really crowded market. Think about it like this. When a customer is looking at, say, a barrel of identical apples, what's going to be the deciding factor? It's almost always price, right? If your business and your competitors look pretty much the same, you're basically forcing your customers to decide based on who's the cheapest. And that's really what a commodity is. It's anything that's easily replaceable. The second a potential customer thinks, these are all pretty much the same, I'll just get the cheaper one, boom, you've been commoditized. And that is a super dangerous place for any business to be. And this, of course, leads to that dreaded race to the bottom. Your competition forces you to lower your prices, then you do the same to them, and back and forth it goes until your profit margins are paper thin. You end up feeling like a slave to your own business, just constantly stressed about staying competitive. This is the million-dollar question, isn't it? How in the world do you break free from this cycle and become, incomparable? It all comes down to one single thing, your offer. And that brings us to the solution, what we call the Grand Slam offer. Now, this isn't about creating a slightly better deal. This is about creating a completely different category of deal, one that makes you impossible to compare to anyone else. A Grand Slam offer is designed to be so unique and just packed with so much value that it creates what we call a category of one. When a customer sees it, they're no longer comparing you to your competitors. The decision becomes super simple. It's between your amazing offer or doing nothing at all. And listen, this isn't just some abstract theory. It has a real, tangible impact on your business. A truly compelling offer gets more people to click on your ads, it funnels more of those people into becoming actual customers, and best of all, it lets you charge what you're truly worth, launching your profits into the stratosphere. Now, that all sounds great, but let's actually look at the numbers here, because the difference between a standard commodity offer and a Grand Slam offer, it's not small. It is absolutely transformative. So here's a pretty typical scenario for a commoditized business. They spend $10,000 on ads, but they only bring in $5,000 in initial cash. That's a 0.5 to 1 return on ad spend. For every single dollar they spend, they only get 50 cents back. They are actively losing money. And let's be crystal clear about what this means. You are literally paying to acquire a customer, just hoping, crossing your fingers, that you'll make that money back over the next few months. It's a cash flow nightmare. It's an incredibly fragile way to run a business. This is the core idea. What if you could flip this entire equation on its head, simply by restructuring your offer to make it completely irresistible? Okay, now let's see what happens with a Grand Slam offer. The ad spend stays exactly the same, 10 grand. But because the offer is so compelling, the response rate more than doubles. And because there's so much value packed in, the closing percentage also more than doubles. And because you're now in a category of one, you can charge 4 times the price. So when you multiply all of that out, the result is just staggering. Over $112,000 in cash collected right up front. That's a 22.4 times increase in upfront cash. This isn't just a small tweak. This is a complete reinvention of the business's financial health. You go from paying to get customers to getting paid, and paid handsomely to acquire them. And here's the most important part, the real kicker. The underlying service, the actual work being done, it's exactly the same in both scenarios. The only thing that changed was the packaging, the offer itself. And this just proves that your offer is the single greatest point of leverage in your entire business. So how do you actually use this leverage? Well, the ultimate takeaway is this. Your goal should be to stop competing entirely. And you do that by creating a category of one. It really is a choice between 2 very different paths. A commodity offer forces you to compete on price, which is always a race to the bottom. But a Grand Slam offer? That lets you compete on value, creating your very own category and putting you in a race to the top. So that leaves us with one final question for you to think about. I want you to look at your own business and be really honest with yourself. Is your current offer just another apple in the barrel, forcing your customers to compare you on price? Or have you built something so valuable, so unique, that you stand completely alone in a category of one?
All right, let's get right into it. What's the one thing that really decides if a business is a huge success or a total flop? You might think it's an amazing product, right? Or maybe a killer sales team or a price nobody can beat. But nope. Today we're going to break down the one thing that's more important than all of that combined. And honestly, it might completely change the way you look at building a business.
So let's just set the scene here. The usual advice, right? It's always build a great product, make an irresistible offer, and you're golden. But here's the crazy thing. You can do all of that perfectly. You can have the best product on the market, an offer that seems like a total no-brainer, and still watch your business go down in flames.
And that's really the big puzzle we're tackling today. I mean, how on earth does a fantastic, totally risk-free offer just fail? To get to the bottom of this, we need to talk about a guy named Lloyd. Super smart entrepreneur, great story.
So Lloyd, he had the software business, and his customers were newspapers. His product was genius. It helped them make way more money from their digital ads. And get this, his offer was what you call a slam dunk. He told them, look, you only pay me a cut of the new money my software makes you. So if they didn't make a profit, he didn't see a penny. I mean, it's all upside, absolutely zero risk for them. And yet, for almost 10 years, his business was just stuck in the mud, barely surviving.
And Lloyd was tearing his hair out, right? He knew his product was good. He knew his offer was incredible. He was a decent salesman. So what was the deal? Well, the answer is actually found in this really simple but kind of profound idea, one that's best explained with a classic marketing story. Okay, so picture this. You're in a marketing class. The professor stands up and asks, all right, everyone, if you were going to open a hot dog stand and you could only have one advantage, just one, what would it be? And of course, the students start shouting out all the obvious stuff. The best location, gourmet hot dogs, the lowest prices, the tastiest mustard. So the professor just lets them all finish, waits for the room to get quiet, and then he smiles and says, a starving crowd. That's it. Think about it. You could have the absolute worst hot dogs, a rickety cart on a bad corner. But if you're parked right outside a stadium just as a massive football game lets out, you're going to sell out. Every single one. And that little story just perfectly captures the whole idea, doesn't it? A starving crowd is really just a simple way of saying there's a huge, desperate demand for something. And that demand is so powerful, it can make even a kind of mad business incredibly successful. I mean, just think back to the whole toilet paper thing at the start of the pandemic. There was no fancy marketing, no 2-for-1 deals. People were just desperate, and that's all that mattered. The crowd was starving.
And this right here, this is exactly what was wrong with Lloyd's business. He wasn't selling to a starving crowd. He was selling to a dying one. The newspaper industry was shrinking by like 25% every single year. He was trying to swim upstream against a tidal wave. But then the pandemic happened. He switched gears, started making masks, and boom, suddenly he's in the middle of a massive, starving market. In just 5 months, he was making millions. It's the same guy, same skills, just a totally different market.
Okay, so the light bulb goes on, right? We get it. We need a starving crowd. The big question is, how do you find one? And here's the secret. You're not trying to create demand out of thin air. That's almost impossible. What you're trying to do is find demand that's already there and just channel it. So let's get practical. Here's a checklist you can use.
So, when you're looking for a great market, there are 4 big things you need to watch out for. We're talking massive pain, purchasing power, how easy they are to target, and finally, growth.
First up, massive pain. This is huge. Your customers can't just kind of want what you're selling. They have to desperately need it. Their hair should be on fire. And the more intense that pain is, the more they're willing to pay to solve it. You know that old saying, the pain is the pitch? It's so true. If you can describe their problem better than they can, they'll automatically assume you have the solution.
Number 2, purchasing power. Now this one sounds super obvious, but you'd be surprised how many people fall into this trap. I heard about this one entrepreneur who was selling resume writing services to people who were unemployed. Now, is there massive pain there? You bet. But do they have the money to pay for it? Not so much. You've got to make sure you're selling to people who can actually afford your solution. All right, third on the list, they have to be easy to target. This is pure logistics.
Basically, are your customers already hanging out together somewhere? Are they all in the same Facebook group? Or do they all read the same newsletter or belong to the same professional association? If they're just scattered everywhere, finding them is going to be a nightmare and super expensive.
And the last one, number 4, is that the market needs to be growing. Think of a growing market like a tailwind when you're riding a bike. It just pushes you along, making everything feel easier. A shrinking market, like the one Lloyd was stuck in, that's a headwind. You're pedaling as hard as you can, but you feel like you're going nowhere. Seriously, business is tough enough. You don't need to be fighting the current, too.
Okay, so let's say you've done your homework. You found a market that ticks all 4 of those boxes. Now what? Well, this next part, this is where things get really interesting. This is how you unlock some serious profitability. The secret is to not stop there, but to go even smaller. You see, pretty much every great market that lasts forever falls into one of 3 big categories: health, wealth, or relationships. I mean, think about it. People will always have problems they want to solve in those areas. So your job isn't to invent a new market. It's to find a small group, a niche, inside one of those big 3 that fits our checklist.
Alex Hormozi, the guy whose ideas we're drawing from here, he has this great line for this. He says, "Don't make me niche slap you." It's kind of a funny way to say you have to pick a lane and stay in it. So many entrepreneurs, they'll try one thing in one niche. It doesn't work right away, and they immediately jump to something else. But the grass is rarely greener. You've got to commit to a niche long enough to actually figure out what works.
And the money you can make by niching down, it's just insane. Let's take an example. Say you have a generic course on time management. You might sell that for, what, 19 bucks? Okay. But what if you make it time management for sales professionals? A little more specific. Now it's maybe worth $99. Let's go deeper. Time management for outbound B2B salespeople. Now you're looking at maybe $499. And if you go super specific, time management for outbound B2B sales reps who sell power tools and gardening supplies, suddenly that same core information is worth almost $2,000.
Yeah, you heard that right. That's 100 times more money for pretty much the same product. Why does that work? Because for that one very specific person, your course doesn't feel generic anymore. It feels like it was made just for them. And that level of specificity, that feeling of they get me, that's where the real value is.
So let's pull all these threads together. When you look at it this way, it becomes crystal clear. The most important decision you will ever make as an entrepreneur, it's not about your product. It's not about your logo or your website.
It all comes down to a simple pecking order. Number 1, above everything else, is your market. Having that starving crowd is the biggest advantage you can possibly have. A great market can make you rich even with a so-so offer. A decent market needs a fantastic offer to work. But a bad market, not even the best salesperson in the world can save a bad market.
And that really brings us to the big takeaway here. Use that checklist, pick your market carefully, and then commit to it. And listen, you are going to fail. You're going to launch offers that bomb. That's part of the process. You actually have to fail your way to success. But when an offer doesn't work, please don't think I suck or this market sucks. Just think, okay, that offer sucked. That is a massive mental shift. The only way you really lose is if you give up on the market instead of just trying another offer.
So I'll leave you with this one question to think about for your own business or for any ideas you have. Are you really, truly serving a starving crowd? A group of people who are desperate for a solution? Or are you just yelling into an empty stadium, hoping that somebody, anybody, will eventually hear you? Because the answer to that question, well, it changes absolutely everything.
So what if I told you that the secret to really growing your business wasn't about being cheaper than the other guy, but about being the most expensive? I know, it sounds completely backward, right? But today, we're going to break down the powerful case for premium pricing and why charging more might just be the smartest and most ethical thing you can do.
Okay, just imagine this for a second. Your own father calls you up, and you can just hear the worry in his voice when he asks you that question. Is what you're doing legal? I mean, wow, that's exactly what happened to Alex Hormozi, the author of our source material, all because of a picture he posted online. And this one question, it just gets right to the heart of how weird we are as a society about money.
And here it is. This is the picture that caused all the commotion. His dad saw it and just couldn't wrap his head around it. He was like, wait, every single person in that photo paid you $42,000? The number itself was so big it just kind of broke his brain.
He figured for that kind of money, something shady must be going on. But the truth? It was actually super simple.
Alex's answer was just perfect. It's a masterclass in showing your value. He just asked his dad, hey, if I could make you an extra $239,000 this year, would you pay me $42,000 to do it? And boom, just like that, it clicks. I mean, of course you would. It's a no-brainer. See, it's not about the price, it's always about the deal. But so many businesses get this completely backward.
Yeah, they get it backward and they end up playing this really dangerous game. It's a game that almost guarantees they're going to struggle. They look at everyone else in the market and decide to compete on price, starting this frantic, miserable race to the bottom.
And on the surface, this whole process seems pretty logical, right? You look around, see what the other guys are charging, and you think, okay, I'll just price myself a little bit lower, be competitive. You even tell yourself you're being smart, offering more for less. But here's the kicker you're not thinking about. The competitors you're copying, they're probably just as broke as you are.
And this is exactly what happens. You end up with this whole marketplace full of businesses with razor-thin profit margins. They can't afford to invest in making their product or service great, and they're all just fighting over the same little pile of customers who only care about getting the cheapest deal. It is an absolute recipe for burnout.
This quote from the marketing legend Dan Kennedy just flips the whole script. Think about it. Being the second cheapest, that gets you absolutely nothing. But being the most expensive, well, that immediately creates a perception of quality, of being the best, of being in a league of your own. So, how on earth do we justify that higher price?
Well, it all comes down to one simple but really powerful idea: the value discrepancy.
People buy things when they feel like they're getting a deal. It's really that simple. We all do it. We pull the trigger when the value we're getting feels way, way bigger than the price we have to pay. So your job isn't just to sell something. It's to create this massive gap and then show it to everyone.
This chart just lays it out perfectly. See? As long as that value line is way up there, way above the price line, you've got a happy customer who feels like they got a steal. But the second it dips below, they're gone. Now, the amateur move is to try and widen that gap by lowering your price. But the pro move? Oh, that's where you keep your price high, or even raise it. And you just massively, obsessively increase the value.
And this way of thinking, it builds into something the source material calls the virtuous cycle of price. And this is where it gets really interesting, because premium pricing stops being just a business strategy, and it starts becoming like a moral duty to serve your clients in the best way possible.
I mean, just look at this comparison. It's night and day. On the left, you've got the low-price world, clients who don't care, terrible results, and you burning out. On the right, you've got the high-price world, the best clients, amazing results, and massive growth. The choice seems pretty obvious when you see it laid out like this, doesn't it? And here's the whole framework. It basically shows two feedback loops. One is a death spiral that leads to failure. The other is a powerful engine for incredible success, not just for you, but for your customers too. So let's break down each side real quick.
Okay, so the vicious cycle, the death spiral, it all starts when you undercharge. Your clients have no skin in the game, so they're not invested. They don't do the work, and they get bad results. Then you start attracting all the complainers, your profits get squeezed to nothing, and pretty soon you can't even afford to deliver a good service. It's this horrible, self-fulfilling prophecy of failure.
But when you charge a premium, oh man, everything flips. Your clients have skin in the game now, they pay attention, they show up, they do the work, and they get incredible results. This attracts even more amazing clients, and your huge profit margins let you reinvest that money to make your service even more world-class. It's a win-win. Everybody wins.
All right, I know what some of you might be thinking right now. This sounds great in theory, but come on, does this stuff actually work in the real world? And the answer is yes. Let's look at the proof.
So this first piece of evidence is fascinating. It comes from a psychological study, and it shows that price doesn't just reflect the value of something, it can actually create value inside the customer's brain. Get this. In the experiment, people were given the exact same wine 3 times, but they were told one was cheap, one was mid-range, and one was super expensive. And guess what? They consistently rated the most expensive wine as tasting the best. The wine was identical. This means raising your price can literally make your product better in the eyes of your customer. They'll value it more, use it more, and get better results because of it.
For our second proof point, let's go right back to the author's own business, Gym Launch. Now, they were in a market where gyms were charging around $500. They came in charging 32 times that price. So what do you think happened?
The results were just insane.
The average gym that went through their program for 11 months didn't just see a little bump. They saw their revenue go up by an average of almost $250,000 per year. I mean, think about that. That is a life-changing amount of money.
And this wasn't just about revenue, which can be kind of misleading. What really matters is profit, right? Well, on average, these gyms more than tripled their monthly profit. That's the fuel that lets you hire the best people, upgrade your equipment, and actually innovate.
And you'd probably think that such a high price would scare customers away, right? Nope, the opposite happened. These gyms added an average of 67 new clients. It just proves that when the value is clear, the right customers are more than happy to pay a premium for results.
So when you boil it all down, it comes to this. Profit is the oxygen your business needs to breathe, to survive, and to grow. By charging what you're truly worth, you give yourself the resources to deliver a world-class, life-changing service. And that's how you make the biggest possible impact on the people you're trying to help.
So I'll just leave you with this final thought to chew on. The question we should be asking isn't, am I charging too much? The real question, the better question is, are you charging enough to give your customers the absolute best chance to succeed? It kind of reframes the whole point of price, doesn't it?
Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to crack open a framework for making offers so good people would feel stupid saying no. All right, let's just dive right in with this quote, which, might make you lean back a little. Our source material is not pulling any punches. The idea isn't to be greedy, though. It's about a total shift in how you think about value and how you deliver a ton of it. But that's the real question, isn't it? I mean, anybody can slap a high price tag on something. The real trick, the secret sauce, is how you get people to look at that price and happily, eagerly say, yep, take my money. So the first step, according to our source, you've got to completely ditch any idea you have about what's fair. Seriously, the most successful businesses out there, they have this massive gap between what something costs them and what they charge. Why? Because they're not selling you a thing. They're selling you a result, an outcome. And the secret to doing all of this? Well, it actually comes down to a really simple formula. Think of it like a new pair of glasses for looking at business. And I'm telling you, once you put them on, you'll see this everywhere. You won't be able to unsee it. And here it is. This is the value equation. It's a framework that breaks down the 4 things, just 4, that make up what a customer actually values. This is what we're going to be digging into for the rest of our time here today. All right, let's get into it. Let's break this thing down. Okay, so the logic here is super simple, right? You've got 2 things on top, 2 on the bottom. To make your offer more valuable, you just have to crank up the stuff on top. That's the dream outcome and the customer's belief that they'll actually get it. And at the same time, you've got to crush the 2 things on the bottom, the time delay and all the effort and sacrifice. So let's look at each of these 4 levers one by one. Because this, right here, is where the magic happens. This is the key to it all. Okay, first up, the dream outcome. And here's the big aha moment. Your job is not to create desire out of thin air. That's way too hard. The desire already exists deep inside people. All you have to do is figure out how to channel that powerful, pre-existing desire and point it directly at what you're selling. So, what are we talking about here? We're talking about the deep-seated stuff, the primal drives that don't really change over time. People want to feel beautiful, they want to be respected, they want to feel powerful, loved, they want to raise their status. So, think about it. Are you selling accounting services, or are you selling peace of mind and a feeling of control? See the difference? All right, lever number 2, perceived likelihood of achievement. And this one is absolutely massive. Because let's be honest, people pay for one thing, certainty. They want to know beyond a shadow of a doubt that if they hand you their hard-earned cash, they're going to get the result. That's why testimonials, guarantees, case studies, they're not just marketing fluff. They are powerful tools for cranking up this specific lever. And this example just nails it, right? Imagine you need surgery. Who are you paying more? The brand new surgeon on their very first operation, or the seasoned pro who's done this exact thing 10,000 times? The procedure is exactly the same, but your perceived chance of a good outcome is worlds apart, and so is the price you're willing to pay. It's a no-brainer. Okay, now let's talk about the bottom of the equation. According to the source, this is where the real pros, the real masters of the game, play. We'll start with time delay. It's super simple. This is the time between when someone buys from you and when they get the good stuff, the benefit. The goal? Make that gap as short as humanly possible. The shorter the wait, the more it's worth. And here's a pro tip from the source. Fast beats free. Every single time. If you're ever up against a free competitor, don't try to compete on price. Compete on speed. People will always pay to get something faster. I mean, just think about Amazon Prime. We pay to get stuff in 2 days instead of 5. The takeaway for you is, where is the waiting in your business and how can you sell a version that gets rid of it? And that brings us to the last lever on the bottom, effort and sacrifice. This is literally everything your customer has to do to get the result. All the hassle, the frustration, the hard work. If you can remove that, man, your value goes through the roof. This is the whole idea behind done-for-you services. You just find the most annoying, difficult part of the process, and you say, don't worry, we'll handle that for you. Okay, so we've got the 4 levers. Now let's put it all together and look at some real-world examples. This is where it gets really interesting, and you can see how this equation just works. So let's start with a question. Why is liposuction worth like 100 times more than a gym membership? Think about it. They both promise the same dream outcome, right? A better-looking body. But one's a small monthly fee, and the other is a massive 5-figure investment. So what gives? Well, it's all about the other 3 levers. Just look at this breakdown. The gym, you've got to wake up early, you're hungry from dieting, you're sore all the time, and it takes years, with no guarantee it'll even work. Now, liposuction, you literally take a nap, and you wake up with the result. It just completely obliterates the time delay and the effort and sacrifice. And that's why people pay a fortune for it. Okay, here's another great example. Meditation versus Xanax. Both are aiming for the same thing, relaxation, feeling calm. And yeah, we can all agree meditation is probably better for you in the long run. But let's look at it through the value equation. Xanax offers almost 100% certainty. It works in like 15 minutes, and it takes 0 effort. From a pure value standpoint, it's not even a contest. And that's why it's a multi-billion-dollar drug. This is one of my favorite examples because it's all about perception. So the London Underground wanted to make commuters happier. Option A, spend billions of dollars to make the trains a few minutes faster. Option B, spend a few million to put up little maps that show you exactly when the next train is coming. They went with B. Did it make the trains faster? No, but it took away the pain of not knowing, the uncertainty. It reduced the perceived sacrifice, and people were way happier. Genius. And you see this at a massive scale when you look at entire industries. Why is the supplement industry literally twice as big as the entire health club industry? It's simple. They're both selling the dream of being healthy, but one requires a ton of effort, and the other, you just swallow a pill. Less effort equals more perceived value. So what's the big takeaway here? It's that you have a choice. You can fight human nature, tell people what they should want, or you can just accept how people are wired, understand what they actually value, and build your entire offer around that truth. And that brings us to this final, pretty provocative quote from our source. The point is, the market doesn't really care about what's technically better. It rewards what people perceive as most valuable. So I want to leave you with this question to chew on for your own business, your own career, whatever it is you do. Go back to that equation. How can you crank up the top 2 variables, the dream and the certainty, and how can you get the bottom 2, the time and the effort, as close to 0 as humanly possible? Because if you can figure that out, that's how you create an offer that people just can't say no to. Today, we're going to break down an absolute masterclass in persuasion. We're looking at how a brilliant piece of writing takes one of the most awkward things in the world, asking for a favor, and turns it into something the other person is actually happy to do. So, how does it work? Let's get into it. You've been there, right? We all have. You need to ask someone for something, but you've got nothing to give them in return. It just feels, it feels kind of selfish and uncomfortable. And usually, when we're on the receiving end of an ask like that, our defenses just shoot straight up. So instead of jumping in with, hey, can you do this for me? The author starts with this quote. Right off the bat, this completely flips the script. This isn't being framed as a burden on you. No, it's being presented as an opportunity for you to find a little bit of happiness. It's a really subtle shift, but it's incredibly powerful. And this is where we get to the core of the technique. Before he even drops a hint about what he actually wants, he completely changes the psychological frame of the entire conversation. See, he's not really asking for a favor. He's asking a question about who you are as a person. And this is the hook. This question is just genius. It totally bypasses that little voice in our head that's always asking, what's in it for me? It's not a transaction. It's a moral question. It's about pure, unadulterated altruism. And let's be honest, who wants to be the person that says no to that? You're basically being asked if you're a good person, and you're immediately primed to prove that yes, you are. So now you're leaning towards a yes, right? Just on a moral level. This is where he masterfully directs that goodwill away from himself. And this part is absolutely crucial. This favor isn't about helping the author. It's about something much, much bigger. This right here is the masterstroke. The person who benefits from your help, it isn't some super successful author asking you to stroke his ego. Nope. It's a faceless entrepreneur, someone who is exactly where you were just a few years ago. That immediately creates empathy, and it totally removes any feeling that you're just doing this for him. You're not helping him. You're paying it forward. And he doesn't just tell you your help matters. He shows you exactly how it matters. He takes this small 60-second thing you're about to do and just blows up the impact. All of a sudden, you're not just leaving a review. You're supporting families. You're creating jobs. You're changing lives. It makes your tiny contribution feel incredibly significant. So let's just look at this side by side, because it makes it so clear. On the left, you have the standard ask. It's fine, I guess, but it's all about me, me, me. On the right, you have the goodwill ask. It's selfless. It's about helping someone else who is just like you, and it is infinitely more powerful. The psychology is just completely different and way more effective. Okay, so at this point, he's created the emotional desire. You want to help. So what's his next job? It's all about logistics. He has to make the act of saying yes ridiculously, almost laughably easy. First things first, he gets rid of the biggest barrier there is. He makes it crystal clear. This is going to cost you exactly $0. The money objection? Gone. Off the table. And right after that, he knocks down the next big excuse. Time. It's not just a moment of your time. No, it's a very specific, tiny little number. Less than 60 seconds. This makes it feel like a micro task, not some big chore. The barrier to entry is basically 0. And finally, he removes all the mental friction. You don't have to think. You don't have to figure anything out. He gives you these super simple step-by-step instructions for every single platform. All you have to do is follow the recipe. I mean, at this point, saying no actually feels like it would take more effort than just saying yes. All right, let's pull all these pieces together. Let's distill this down into a clear strategy, a kind of playbook you can actually use for making a powerful, persuasive ask that's built on goodwill. So here it is, the formula in 4 simple steps. 1. Start by making it about their chance to feel good, not your need. 2. Prime them with a question about their values that makes them want to say yes. 3. Shift the focus to a relatable person that they can help, not you. And 4. Make the actual thing you want them to do completely and totally frictionless. That's the goodwill playbook. And then he closes it out with this one last brilliant touch. After you've done the thing, he welcomes you into the club. He basically says, you get it, you're one of us. This validates your decision, makes you feel great about what you just did, and it builds this amazing connection. It's like a little psychological reward. You know, this technique isn't just about getting book reviews. It can apply to almost any situation where you need to persuade somebody. So the next time you have to ask for something, just think about it. What could you really accomplish if you stopped making the ask about you and started making it about them?
All right, in this explainer, we're not just going to talk about creative thinking. Nope, we're actually going to put it to the test right now. I'm going to walk you through a super quick exercise that shows you 2 really powerful ways your brain solves problems. And by the end, you'll have a new tool to come up with your absolute best ideas.
So, you ready? I've got a quick challenge for you. And don't worry, this isn't about getting a score or anything like that. It's all about seeing how your own mind works. It's really simple, but trust me, the results might just surprise you.
Okay, here's the deal. You're going to have just 2 minutes. That's it. And the whole goal here is to fire up that creative part of your brain. You know, the part you really need when you're trying to come up with valuable ideas or new products or, heck, solutions to really tough problems. All right, so here is the exercise. I want you to think about a really simple, everyday object, a plain old ordinary brick.
The instructions could not be simpler. First, go grab a pen and paper. Seriously, pause if you need to. Got it? Okay. Now you're going to set a timer for 120 seconds, and in that time I want you to write down every single use for a brick you can possibly think of. Think about all the different ways it could provide value. You ready? Let's do this.
Okay, your 120 seconds starts right now. Go, go, go. Get writing. And hey, don't judge your ideas, all right? Just get as many down on that paper as you possibly can. No wrong answers here.
And time's up. Pencils down, everyone. Go ahead, take a look at your list. Now, here's where it gets interesting. I'm about to ask you a few questions that are probably going to completely change how you see that list and how you see the brick itself.
So let me ask you this. Did you just automatically assume the brick was, a standard red clay rectangle? Because what if it was the size of a piece of gum? Or what if it was as big as a sofa? What if it wasn't made of clay at all, but solid gold? Or maybe super lightweight plastic? What if it had holes in it, kind of like a cinder block, or had interlocking parts, like a Lego?
You see what just happened there? A gold brick suddenly isn't just for building a wall, it's a store of value, right? A plastic one could be a flotation device. A brick with holes in it, well, that could be a planter or a pen holder. The second you change those variables, those assumptions you were holding, a whole new universe of solutions just explodes open.
So what was that? What just happened in your brain? You actually just experienced a shift between two totally fundamental types of thinking. Let's break down exactly what your brain just did.
What that little exercise just showed you are two totally different approaches to problem solving. On one side, you've got convergent thinking. That's the logical, step-by-step thinking that's looking for one single correct answer. But on the other side, you've got divergent thinking. And that's exactly what we just did. It's all about changing the rules to generate tons of possible answers.
Convergent thinking is pretty much what we're all taught in school, right? It's about taking a bunch of known facts and funneling them all down to find that one right solution. And look, it's super useful for things that have a really clear, defined answer. A perfect example? A simple business math problem.
Okay, so check out this scenario. You've got these fixed variables, you know how many salespeople you have, how many calls they make, and what your sales target is. When you run the numbers, you converge on one single correct answer. Boom! You need to hire 2 more people. It's totally logical, you can prove it, and it's binary. It's either right or it's wrong. Simple as that.
Now, divergent thinking is the complete opposite. It's basically the engine of creativity. Instead of narrowing everything down, you're expanding everything out. You start with one problem, like what can you do with a brick, and you just explore endless solutions by questioning all the assumptions. That's exactly what you were doing when you started imagining a brick made of gold or a giant one made of plastic.
So why does any of this matter? Well, here's the thing. While school is constantly testing you on convergent thinking, the real world rewards divergent thinking. This whole brick exercise wasn't just a fun little game. It's a powerful framework for creating real, tangible value.
And this is the big takeaway, right here. Your product, your service, your big idea, that's your brick. And just like that brick, your offer is made up of all these little building blocks. And when you start thinking divergently, you can re-examine every single one of those blocks. What are the variables you just take for granted? And how can you change them to create something so incredibly valuable that people would feel absolutely foolish saying no to it?
And that really brings us to the final question, the one I want you to take away from all this. Think about your own work, or your project, or your business. What is your brick? What are those standard, unspoken assumptions that you've just accepted about it? And maybe most importantly, if you start challenging those assumptions, what incredible, game-changing value are you currently leaving on the table?
Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to break down a framework for creating an offer that is so unbelievably good, people would actually feel stupid saying no to it. And this whole idea comes from that deep frustration of having an amazing product that, for some reason, just isn't selling.
So let's start with a feeling that might be a little, painfully familiar. You've poured your heart and soul into something you believe in, but nobody's buying it. This quote just nails that feeling, doesn't it? And it's really the starting point for the big breakthrough we're going to talk about today.
This whole thing kicks off with the author's own story of struggling to get his gym business off the ground. He put together what he thought was a great deal, a $99 a month boot camp. He was super passionate about it, and crickets. Not a single person signed up. He knew he could get people results, but the offer itself was a total flop.
At first, everyone told him, oh, it's too expensive. So, what did he do? He tried offering it for free. A free trial. And you know what happened? People still said no. They were worried they couldn't afford it later on. I mean, think about that. He literally couldn't give his service away. This is the exact kind of problem this whole framework is designed to fix.
So what was the solution? Well, it wasn't a new price point or some fancy feature.
Not at all. It was a complete fundamental shift in perspective about what he was actually selling.
And here's the core idea right here. You have to stop selling the plane flight and start selling the vacation. See, nobody really wants to buy the flight. That's just the process. They want the amazing destination. They don't want a gym membership. They want to lose the weight. It's all about selling the what, the incredible outcome, not the how.
And the great thing is, this isn't just some vague concept. It's a super clear 3-step process. First up, you have to identify what your customer's dream outcome really is. Then, you list out every single problem standing in their way. And finally, this is the fun part, you turn all those problems into solutions that become your incredible offer.
All right, let's dig into that first step, shall we? Because it all starts with getting laser-focused on what your customer is truly deeply hoping to achieve.
So, the dream outcome, it's not just the end result. It's the whole experience, the feeling that comes along with it. So instead of selling a generic gym membership, the author started selling a very specific, compelling dream. Lose 20 pounds in 6 weeks. You see the difference? It's tangible, it has a deadline, and it speaks directly to what the customer actually wants.
Okay, so once you know exactly where your customer wants to go, step 2 is all about mapping out every single roadblock that could possibly stop them from getting there.
And the key phrase here is insane detail. Seriously, you need to think about every tiny little frustration, every fear, every inconvenience they could possibly run into. What happens before they even start with you? What happens during? What's the next problem they're going to face even after you've helped them? The more problems you can find, the more value you can pack into your offer.
Okay, this right here, this is called the value equation, and it pretty much explains the psychology behind every single buying decision. To make your offer seem way more valuable, you have to increase the dream outcome and their belief that they can actually do it. And at the same time, you have to decrease the time it takes and the effort they have to put in. Basically, every single customer problem you find is going to link back to one of these 4 things. So these are those hidden roadblocks, those little voices in your customer's head. They're asking themselves, is this outcome really big enough to be worth it? Yeah, but will it actually work for me specifically? Is this just going to be way too hard or confusing? And how long is this going to take? Your offer has to answer all of these unspoken fears before they even have to ask.
And this, my friends, brings us to the most creative and, frankly, the most powerful step in this entire process. This is where you take that huge list of obstacles and you systematically flip each one into a core part of your amazing offer.
The technique is so simple, it's almost genius. You just rephrase the problem as a solution. So cooking healthy food takes too long becomes, I'll show you how to cook delicious meals in under 5 minutes. You're literally creating a checklist of value, turning every single point of friction into another reason to say yes.
And you really have to be relentless here. The goal is to solve every single problem you came up with. Don't hold back, because, it's often that one tiny unsolved issue that ends up being the reason someone walks away. When you solve all of them, there's just no reason left to say no. And just to prove this isn't some one-trick pony for gyms, check this out. It works in any industry. Here's an example from a relationship course. On the left, you've got that raw list of all the problems people face when dating. And on the right, that list is transformed into these compelling solutions, like how to create chemistry like you've never known. See? It's the exact same process.
So, when you really put it all together, identifying that dream, listing out every problem, and then creating all the solutions, that's how you build the foundation of a Grand Slam offer. You're not just selling a service anymore. You're selling a complete, totally irresistible solution that gets your customer exactly what they want. So, I want to leave you with this question. Think about your own business, your own project. What's just one problem your customers are dealing with that you could solve for them like tomorrow? What's one small thing you could add to your offer that makes their dream outcome feel that much closer?
Have you ever wondered what it would take to create an offer that's so good people would actually feel foolish saying no to it? Well, today we are diving deep into a really powerful framework from Alex Hormozi's $100 million offers to show you exactly how to do that. Let's jump right in. So this is the big question, isn't it? How do you actually do it? And let me tell you, it's not about using slick sales tactics or just slapping on a discount. It's about building so much incredible value that the customer's decision becomes a total no-brainer. So how do we get there? To get there, we're going to walk through 5 key steps. First up, we'll tackle the irresistible offer problem itself.
Then, we'll get into the right mindset for creating value. After that, we'll brainstorm solutions, then learn how to trim and stack that value, and finally, we'll see how to make that crucial shift from price to pure value.
All right, let's just get straight to the point. If you don't have an amazing offer, everything else you do in your business, I'm talking your marketing, your ads, your entire sales process, it's all just a massive uphill battle. A weak offer, honestly, is the #1 reason for slow growth.
So, what's the fix? Well, it all starts with a shift in your mindset. Especially when you're just starting out, you have to be willing to completely over-deliver, like crazy over-deliver. The goal here isn't perfection or scalability right out of the gate. It's about creating cash flow, getting those amazing testimonials, and just proving your concept works. You do whatever it takes to get that first critical yes.
This diagram here shows the core trade-off perfectly. See over on the left, you've got offers that are super easy to sell. Why? Because you're doing so much for the customer. But that, of course, makes them really hard to fulfill. Then on the right, you've got the exact opposite. Easy to fulfill offers that are a real pain to sell. The big idea here is to start on the left. Make it incredibly, undeniably easy for people to say yes.
And this quote just lays out the game plan perfectly. Create flow means you generate a ton of demand with that irresistible offer. Monetize flow, well, that's about getting paid. It's only after you have customers and cash coming in that you start to focus on efficiency, or as he puts it, adding friction.
And here is the perfect real-world example of this whole idea in action. To get his gym launch model off the ground, Hormozi literally did everything. I mean, he flew out to the gyms, he spent his own money on their ads and travel, he generated all the leads, he even did the selling for the gym owner. He did the first client onboarding, he took on 100% of the financial risk. The gym owner had absolutely zero downside. I mean, how could you possibly say no to an offer like that?
Okay, let's get tactical. Now we're diving into the creative part, brainstorming every single way you could possibly solve your customers' problems. And listen, at this stage, there are no bad ideas. The goal is just to generate a massive, messy list of potential solutions.
A framework like this, Delivery Cube, can really help. Just think of it as a bunch of prompts or cheat codes. For instance, look at the top left. Could you solve the problem one-on-one? Or maybe in a small group? Or for a ton of people at once? Or think about the effort level. Could you offer a do-it-yourself thing, a done-with-you partnership, or a completely done-for-you service? Every single one of these questions opens up a whole new world of possibilities. Just look at what this process can cook up for just one single problem. Let's say the problem is buying healthy food is hard. Your solutions could range from something really high-touch, like an in-person shopping tour, all the way to a fully automated one-click grocery delivery list. The point is to get all these different ideas down on paper.
So you've got this huge list of potential solutions. Now what? Well, it's time to refine it. We're going to trim that list down and then stack the absolute best components to build what Hormozi calls a grand slam offer.
The logic for trimming your list is actually pretty simple. First, as you see in step 1, you get rid of anything that's high cost for you but kind of low value for the customer. Makes sense. Next, you get rid of the low cost, low value stuff. And what's left behind? That's the gold, the high value components that really, truly make a difference for your customer. And this is where you stack it all up. You take those amazing high-value items and you bundle them all together. You're not just selling workouts anymore. No way. You are selling a complete solution. You've got a bargain grocery system, an accountability system. You even have an eating out system. Each one of these components solves a specific, painful problem and has its own really high perceived value.
So when you actually assign a perceived value to every single part of that solution, and then you add it all up, you get a total value of over $4,000. Now remember, this is not the price, this is the total value that the customer is now seeing. And then you hit them with the punchline. You present all of that incredible problem-solving value for a price that seems almost ridiculously low in comparison. It's that huge gap between the perceived value of over $4,000 and the price of just $599 that makes the offer so good people feel stupid saying no.
This right here is the transformation. By creating that massive gap between value and price, you've completely changed how the customer makes their decision. The whole conversation is no longer about cost, it's all about value.
You've literally shifted them from a price-based decision, where they're just comparing numbers on a spreadsheet, to a value-based one. The only question they're asking themselves now is solving my problem worth this investment?
And when you frame it like that, your competition just becomes totally irrelevant.
A true Grand Slam offer does 3 really powerful things. As you can see, it solves the whole puzzle for your customer. It gives you, the business owner, this unshakable belief in what you're selling, and it makes you so unique that it's just impossible for anyone to do a price comparison.
And that really brings us to the final thought I want to leave you with. As you look at your own business, ask yourself this one question. What is that one nagging, persistent problem that, if you just completely solved it for your customer, would make your offer the only logical choice? The answer to that question, that's the start of your own Grand Slam offer.
Have you ever seen an offer that was so good you just felt like you had to have it, like it would be crazy to say no? Well, today we're going to pull back the curtain on the psychology of that feeling. We're diving into how to create real desire by mastering the game of supply and demand.
You know this line, right? Of course you do. We've all heard it a million times on some late-night infomercial. But it's a classic for a reason. It hints at a deep secret in marketing, the art of making something so valuable, so tempting, that people can't stop thinking about it. And we're going to unpack exactly how that works, starting with a story from one heck of an exclusive party.
All right, so our story takes us straight into the heart of Hollywood. We're going to a super high-stakes charity fundraiser at the home of Arnold Schwarzenegger himself. And this isn't just any party, trust me. This is basically a masterclass in creating value out of thin air.
Okay, so just picture this. You pull up, and the entire street is just jammed with supercars. I'm talking Bugattis, Ferraris, the whole 9 yards. A-list celebrities are everywhere. People are live streaming to millions. The air is just buzzing with this feeling of pure, insane exclusivity.
So what's the price to get in? Just a cool $25,000. Yeah, per ticket. But here's the real kicker. Even if you had the cash, you couldn't just buy a ticket. The guest list was capped at only 100 people. This is scarcity by design on a massive scale.
So inside, Alex Hormozi, the author of our source material, gets introduced to this guy named George. Now, George is one of the charity's biggest donors, and he made his fortune selling multi-million-dollar jewelry. So this guy knows what makes the super rich tick, and he's about to share a secret that's going to totally flip how you think about value.
The event organizer mentions that they had way more demand than ever this year, and it was George who told him what to do. He said, when demand increases, cut supply. Now, wait a minute. That sounds completely backward, doesn't it? If more people want your stuff, you should sell more of it. But George knew better.
So what happened when they actually listened to him? It was insane. They jacked up the ticket price from 15 grand all the way to 25. They sold fewer tickets than before. And get this, they made an extra $1 million before a single person even walked through the door. Not only that, but the room was suddenly filled with even bigger, more serious donors. By the end of the night, from just those 100 guests, the charity raised $5.4 million. That's an average of over $50,000 from every single person there. This wasn't just fundraising. This was a straight-up masterclass in psychology.
So what is the psychology that makes something like this even possible? It really comes down to mastering what the source calls the delicate dance of desire. Let's break down how this actually works. Okay, so look at this. On the left, you've got your basic Econ 101 graph. Price goes up, demand goes down. Simple, predictable, kind of boring. But on the right, that's where the magic is. The whole point of great marketing is to shift that entire curve so that even at a higher price, you get more demand. And the way you do that is by creating desire.
And what is desire, really? I absolutely love this definition from Naval Ravikant. Desire is a contract you make with yourself to be unhappy until you get what you want. Whoa, think about that. It's not just a casual, I want that. It's a tension. It's an itch you can't scratch. It's a powerful, almost uncomfortable feeling.
And that leads us to the most important point of all. The second you get what you want, poof, the desire is gone. Satisfaction is the death of desire. So if you want to keep desire high, you have to delay satisfaction. You have to become the master of anticipation.
So, how do you actually engineer this stuff? Well, the source material gives us this really simple but powerful way to think about it, the pent-up demand pyramid.
So imagine you're at a fork in the road. Path number 1, you can try to satisfy everybody. You set a low price and you sell to every single person who wants one. Or there's path number 2. You do the exact opposite. You set a high price and you only sell to a select few. Let's visualize this. Think of all the people who might want your thing as a pyramid. At the very wide bottom, you've got the masses. Lots of people who are willing to pay a lower price. But way up at that tiny, pointy top, that's the elite group, the ones who are willing to pay a huge premium to get their hands on it.
Okay, so in scenario 1, you sell to the whole pyramid. You open the floodgates, great, you made some sales. But now what? The desire is gone. The magic has vanished. There's no one left wanting more. You have to start all over again from scratch next time.
But now, look at scenario 2. This is where the genius comes in. You sell only to that tiny group at the very top of the pyramid. And two amazing things happen. First, you actually make more profit. But more importantly, look at that huge chunk of the pyramid that's left over. That is pure, uncut, pent-up demand. That's a massive group of people who wanted what you had, couldn't get it, and now they want it even more. They are primed and ready to buy next time.
And this all leads to what the author calls Hormozi law, and it is so simple and so powerful. The longer you delay the ask, the bigger the ask you can make. It's like building a runway for a plane. The more runway you build with anticipation and desire, the bigger the plane you can launch.
So you're probably thinking, okay, I get it. This is cool. But how do you actually put it into practice? Let's get into the toolkit. These are the 5 enhancers you can use to make pretty much any offer irresistible.
All right, here they are. First, scarcity. Just like Arnold's party. Limit the number available. Second, urgency. Put a deadline on it. Make people act now. Third, bonuses. This is your "but wait, there's more" moment. Stack the value. Fourth, guarantees. Take all the risk away from the customer, so it feels like a no-brainer. And fifth, naming. Give your offer a unique name to make it feel fresh and special. These are the levers. You pull them to create desire.
So, I'll leave you with this question to chew on. In your business, in your work, whatever it is you do, are you just satisfying the demand that's already there, or are you engineering desire? Are you creating something so exclusive and valuable that people feel lucky just to get the chance to buy it? The difference, as you now know, is everything.
Okay, so let's get right into it. How do you create an offer that's so compelling, so irresistible, that people actually feel kind of foolish if they say no? We're going to break down the secret to making offers that people just can't walk away from. And you know what it all comes down to? It's these 2 little words: sold out. Now, this isn't just about bad inventory management. No. This is a strategy. Scarcity is hands down one of the most powerful ways to get insane pricing power. It's what creates that gut feeling of, oh man, I gotta get this now. And this quote right here, this really just nails the whole idea. Think about it. In any deal, any sale, who has the power? It's the person who's okay with walking away. By creating real scarcity, you're basically signaling, hey, I don't need this specific sale, which, funnily enough, just makes everybody want what you have even more. To really see how this works in the wild, let's jump into a quick story that shows just how crazy powerful this can be. Because this isn't just some textbook theory. This is what happens when demand goes through the roof and supply just isn't there. I want you to imagine getting offered $50,000. Not for a year, not for a month, but for one single day of your time. This actually happened to the author of our source material. A company offered him that much for one day of consulting. That's a mind-blowing number, right? It just shows you the insane value they saw in him. And here's the absolute kicker. He said no. He turned it down. Why on earth would you do that? Well, because his own business was already pulling in more than 50 grand a day. He just didn't need their money. And that, right there, gives you this unshakable confidence that you just can't fake. It's the ultimate power move. So, what's happening deep down in our brains that makes this all work? Let's peel back the layers here and really look at the hidden psychology that drives us crazy for things we think we can't have. You know, it's pretty wild. Our brains are fundamentally wired in a kind of lopsided way. We are way, way more motivated by the fear of losing something than we are by the desire to gain something new. It's called loss aversion. So scarcity taps directly into that deep-seated fear of missing out, and it forces us to act before the chance is gone for good. Okay, so theory is cool, but how do we actually use this? How do we build scarcity into our offers? Well, it's not as complex as you might think. It really just comes down to 3 basic but super powerful levers you can pull. So first up, You can limit the number of spots available. Only 20 seats in this workshop. Simple. Second, you can limit the goodies, the bonuses that come with the offer. And third, maybe the most powerful of all, is making the entire offer a one-time only deal. That's it, never coming back. Each one creates a unique kind of urgency. All right, let's get into the nitty-gritty. How do we turn this into an actual playbook? We're going to move from the why to the how, with real actionable tactics you can use whether you sell physical products or you offer services. So for physical products, think limited drops, a special edition flavor, a unique colorway. But here's the really important part. Your goal should always be to sell out. Seriously, it's way better to make 100 and sell all 100 than it is to make 200 and have 100 left over. And you can't skip to step, you have to tell everyone you sold out. That's what builds the hype for the next one. I mean, if you want to see a true master of this game, just look at Chanel. They'll intentionally ship only one or two of a specific handbag to an entire store. It means basically every single piece is rare. It creates this atmosphere where if you see something you like, you feel like you have to buy it right then and there at whatever price they ask. It's just a masterclass. Now, for services, I know it can feel a little different, but here are 3 totally honest ways to do it. 1, you can cap the total number of clients your business will ever work with, period. 2, you can cap how many new clients you take on each month or week. Or 3, you can only onboard new clients in groups or cohorts a few times a year. All of these create genuine ethical scarcity. All right, you ready to level up? Let's get into the pro moves. This is where we go beyond the basics and look at some of the more advanced strategies that can just have a massive, massive impact on your business. So, let's be real for a second. I want you to ask yourself an honest question. Right now, today, what's your actual capacity? If you got slammed with new business tomorrow, how many new clients could you serve without the quality dropping? 5? 10? Be honest. That number, that's your new best friend in marketing. This is what we call honest scarcity. It's not a gimmick, you're not making anything up, you just figure out your real capacity and then you tell people how close you are to hitting it. Saying something like, we're currently at 81% capacity for the quarter is just a fact, but that fact creates real urgency for people to snag one of those last remaining spots. And for the ultimate pro move, go for what's called extreme scarcity. Create a super exclusive, really high-priced offer for direct one-on-one access to you. Limit it to a tiny number of people, like 2 or 3, set the price really high, and just let people know it's available. The results can be absolutely staggering. So, to wrap it all up, what are the big things to remember? Number 1, make it your goal to sell out. 2, when you do sell out, shout it from the rooftops. 3, your honest, real-world limits are your most powerful marketing tool. And when you do all this, you'll find that people make decisions faster and they're willing to pay more for what you have. And that really brings us to the final question. This isn't just something to think about. It's a challenge. Take a hard look at your business, your products, your services, even your own time. What is one thing, just one, that you could make scarce, starting today?
All right, let's dive in. Today, we're going to tackle one of the biggest headaches in business, customer hesitation. We're going to break down how you can turn that "I'll think about it" into a "Yes, let's do this," all by using one really powerful and ethical tool.
So let's set the scene. You know that moment, right? A potential customer is right on the edge of buying, and then they hesitate. This whole explainer is dedicated to fixing that one, single, incredibly frustrating problem.
Of course you have. It's the phrase that every entrepreneur, every marketer, every single salesperson dreads hearing. It feels like a polite no. But you know what it really is? It's indecision. And indecision is the absolute enemy of sales.
So what's the fix? What's the antidote to get somebody off that fence? Well, the answer lies in a single, super powerful concept that we're about to unpack. And here it is. This is the mantra for our entire strategy today. I want you to say it with me. Deadlines, drive, decisions. This simple idea, pulled right from our source material, is honestly the key to turning that hesitation into real commitment.
Okay, so let's get a really clear definition down. When we say urgency, we're not talking about being pushy or aggressive. It's simply a function of time. It's about creating a clear, defined endpoint that helps your prospect finally make a choice. Now, this is a really important distinction. People mix these two up all the time. Scarcity is about quantity, only 10 spots left. But urgency is all about time. It's about when you can buy. Like, this offer ends on Friday. And today we're focused entirely on the power of that ticking clock.
And this image just says it all, doesn't it? Urgency is a countdown. It introduces a consequence for doing nothing, which is simply that the opportunity just goes away after a certain point. It basically forces a decision, one way or another.
So, how do you actually do this? How do you apply it ethically without sounding fake or high pressure? Well, the source material gives us this fantastic playbook with 4 core strategies. Let's break them down.
First up, we have a method that is an absolute game changer for service-based businesses. It's called cohort-based rolling urgency, and it's all about creating natural deadlines based on how you bring on new clients.
Now, the beauty of this is that you're not making anything up. You have a real operational reason for the deadline. You can just say, hey, if you sign up today, I can get you in with our next group that kicks off on Monday. It's a gentle, totally logical nudge that just says, act now if you want to start sooner.
Okay, let's move on to our second key. This one is perfect for businesses that have promotions running all year long. It's called rolling seasonal urgency.
The genius of this is just giving your offer a fresh coat of paint. The discount might stay the same, but by calling it the Sexy Buy Spring Special and giving it a real end date, you create a legitimate reason for a customer to act now. This is a killer strategy, especially for local businesses.
All right, our third strategy gets even more specific. It focuses on the components of your offer itself. This is what we call pricing or bonus-based urgency.
This is how you maintain total integrity. You're not saying your business is closing. You're just saying that the promotion, the special discount or the free bonus is what's ending. It creates that fear of missing out on the great deal, not on your core service. It's a total win-win.
And finally, our fourth key. This one is for those situations when the opportunity you're offering is inherently time-sensitive. It's called the exploding opportunity.
What's so interesting here is that the urgency is just built right into the offer. The value actually goes down with every second of delay. If you're selling something like this, emphasizing the time decay isn't just a tactic. It's really your responsibility to make sure the customer doesn't miss out.
Okay, at this point, I can practically hear what a lot of you are thinking. It's the #1 fear that holds people back from using urgency, so let's just tackle it head on.
This is the big one, isn't it? We're all a little scared that by drawing a line in the sand, we're going to push away people who might have bought from us eventually, but the data tells a completely different story.
Take a look at this number, 60%. What could that possibly mean? Well, it points to a completely illogical but unmistakably human statistic. And this just brilliantly shows how deadlines work. Up to 60% of all sales in a campaign happen in the final 3% of the time. Think about that for a second. The deadline doesn't scare people away. It's the very thing that motivates the huge majority of people to finally take action.
So what's the big takeaway here? The source puts it perfectly. Your fear is unfounded. The people who missed the deadline, they were never going to buy anyway. You aren't losing customers. You are finally converting the fence-sitters.
So, we've defined urgency, we've walked through 4 awesome ways to implement it, and we have busted the biggest myth around it. So, now what? What's the next step?
Remember, the goal here is not to trick anyone or manipulate them. The goal of ethical urgency is to give people a helpful nudge. It's a tool to help them overcome their own inertia and take an action that they already know is good for them.
And that really just brings us to the final question. I want you to look at your own business, your own offers. Using the playbook we just went through, what is one real ethical deadline you can create right now to help your customers finally make a decision? Because that's where the magic really happens.
All right, let's just jump right in. Have you ever seen an offer for something and thought, wow, I have to get this? Today, we're going to break down exactly how to create offers that are so powerful, so packed with value, that your customers would feel absolutely foolish for saying no.
You know this line, right? It's that classic infomercial catchphrase. And yeah, it's a little cheesy, but there's a reason it works. It taps into this really powerful psychological trigger. It's the sound of value just being stacked, one piece on top of another, until the offer becomes completely irresistible. And that's really the core idea we're unpacking today. So this is the big question, isn't it?
And look, this isn't about some kind of trick or shady tactic. It's about completely shifting the balance of value so far into your customer's favor that buying from you becomes the most logical, no-brainer decision they can make. And I promise, by the end of this, you'll have the exact framework to do just that.
Here's how we're going to do it. First, we'll cover the big secret, why you should probably stop discounting forever. Then, we'll get into the fun stuff, building what we call a value stack. After that, we'll talk about how to present these bonuses for the biggest impact. And finally, we'll get into a pro-level tactic that can seriously supercharge your offers for free. Let's do it. Okay, first up, the secret to never having to discount your stuff ever again. This is a huge mental shift that changes the entire sales game. It's all about playing offense with value instead of playing defense by cutting your price. Just look at the difference here. Think about it. When a store is always having a 50% off sale, what do you start to think? You just assume the original price was fake, right? You're training your customers to wait for a discount. It's a race to the bottom. But when a company adds value, like a free bonus or an extra service, it comes from a place of strength, of generosity. It makes the customer feel good about their purchase, instead of just feeling like they got a cheap deal.
So this all comes down to one key concept, the price-to-value discrepancy. Imagine your customer has a little scale in their mind. On one side, there's the price. On the other side is all the value they think they're getting. Our whole job is to just pile so much amazing stuff onto the value side that the price side flies up and seems tiny in comparison. The wider we can make that gap, the more of a yes it becomes.
And this is exactly how we do it. Let's say you're a web designer and you sell a $5,000 website package. You could just say that, or you could splinter it. Now it includes custom logo design, valued at $1,000, SEO optimization, that's $1,500, content writing for 5 pages, another $1,000, and 1 year of hosting, that's $500. All of a sudden, you're not selling a $5,000 website. You're offering a $9,000 value package for only $5,000. Which one sounds more powerful to you?
Okay, the theory is cool, but how do we actually build these things? Let's get really practical and break down the 5 simple steps to creating a bonus that actually feels valuable and persuasive.
This is basically your checklist. So, step 1, don't call it bonus PDF. Call it something like the 5-minute client acquisition formula. See the difference? Then, tell the story behind it. Show them proof that it actually works. Help them imagine their life after they use it. And this last one is so important. Give it a real, justifiable price tag. A bonus without a value attached often just feels like it has no value at all.
And here's the big one, a really powerful rule of thumb. The total stated value of all your bonuses should actually be more than the value of your main offer. It creates this psychological tipping point where the customer just thinks, wow, if all the free stuff is worth this much, the main thing must be absolutely incredible.
So, you've built this amazing stack of value. Great. But presentation is everything. It's not just what you offer, it's how and when you reveal it that makes all the difference.
And your strategy totally changes depending on the situation. If you're selling to one person face-to-face, you lead with your main offer. If they're on the fence, you can pull out a bonus that handles their exact objection. And if they buy right away, awesome. Surprise them with all the bonuses after they've paid. It creates this amazing wow experience. But if you're selling to a group, like on a webinar or a sales page, you do the opposite. You stack all the value up front to build this mountain of desire before you even mention the price.
Now, to make your bonuses even more powerful, you can add in a little scarcity. Scarcity is all about a limited quantity. For instance, you could say, for the first 10 people who sign up today, I'm also including a private one-on-one coaching call, valued at $500. That limited number makes the bonus feel way more exclusive and valuable.
Urgency, on the other hand, is all about limited time. This is your classic, this offer disappears at midnight. It's a ticking clock that gets people who might be procrastinating to finally make a decision, because that fear of missing out on all that extra value is a really, really powerful motivator.
All right, let's kick things up a notch. We're going to talk about a really advanced strategy now, one that can take your value stack into a whole new league. This is where you use other people's products and services to make your offer basically unbeatable. Just check out this example. A pain clinic has a core offer for $400, but they've gone out and partnered with a local chiropractor, an orthotics company, and a gym. They've stacked on an extra $350 of real tangible value from these other businesses. So now, the customer is looking at $750 of value for a $400 price tag. That decision just got a whole lot easier, didn't it? And here is the absolute best part. This cost the pain clinic $0. Nothing.
The chiropractor is happy to give away 2 free adjustments because they get a brand new potential long-term client walking through their door. It's free, hyper-targeted marketing for them, and it's a high-value, no-cost bonus for you. It is a true win-win.
But wait, it gets even better. What if you set up a little affiliate deal for every customer you send to those partners? So you get a kickback from the chiropractor, from the orthotics company, from the gym. All of a sudden, your $400 offer could be making you an extra $350 in pure profit. Your bonuses just became a whole new revenue stream. You see how this creates a perfect win-win-win situation? The customer gets an unbelievable deal that's just packed with value, your partners get a steady stream of their ideal customers sent right to them, and you not only close way more sales because your offer is just irresistible, but you literally open up an entirely new way to make money. It's brilliant.
So I'll leave you with this question to think about. What hidden value, checklists you've made, guides you've written, potential partners in your network, is already sitting there in your business, just waiting to be stacked into an offer so good, people would feel just plain stupid saying no?
All right, today we're going to talk about one of the most overlooked yet most powerful tools in your entire business, the guarantee. We're going to break down exactly how you can craft a promise so compelling, so powerful that it makes your offer virtually irresistible. Let's dive in. You know, a lot of people think of guarantees as just a safety net for customers, right? Some boring fine print. But that's not it at all. When you do it right, a guarantee is a massive lever for profit that can totally change the game, turning doubt into a done deal.
You've heard this a million times, haven't you? It's an absolute classic for a reason. That simple line is burned into our brains because it's so confident, it's memorable, and it goes right after a customer's biggest insecurity. It's really a masterclass in marketing.
But before we can build that perfect guarantee, we have to face the one huge obstacle, the one big bad villain that stands between you and every single one of your customers. So what do you think it is? Seriously, think about it. It's not always the price tag. It's not always about having more features. There is one single emotion that kills more sales than anything else on the planet. Any guesses? That's it. Risk. Every single person who's thinking about buying from you has that little voice in their head asking, yeah, but what if it doesn't work for me? What if I waste my money? That fear is the final boss of selling, and our job is to completely obliterate it. So here's the big idea. You don't just reduce risk, you have to actively reverse it. You got to take all that fear, all that uncertainty, and put it squarely on your own shoulders. And when you do that, the data shows a truly great guarantee can double or even quadruple your conversion rate. It's huge. Now, I know what you're thinking, because it's the biggest fear every business owner has. But if I offer a crazy guarantee when I get a ton of refunds and lose money, well, let's just do the math. With a weak guarantee, let's say you make 100 sales. You get 5 refunds, so you're left with 95 sales. Now, with a strong guarantee, your sales jump 30% to 130. And yeah, your refunds might double to 10%, which is 13 people. But you're still left with 117 net sales. And here's the bottom line, the only number that really matters. You end up making 23% more money. This is so important to understand. A stronger guarantee often means more refunds, yes, but the huge spike in sales you get on the front end more than makes up for it. So don't let fear make the decision. Just do the math. Okay, so now that we've crushed that fear and we understand the why, let's get into the how. We're about to open up the playbook of guarantee types that you can start using in your offers like today. When you boil it all down, guarantees really fall into these 4 main buckets. I want you to think of these as different tools in your toolbox, and each one has a very specific, unique power if you use it in the right situation. First up, we've got the heavyweight champion, the unconditional guarantee. This is your classic 30-day money-back, no questions asked. It's incredibly powerful because you're essentially telling the customer, hey, this is a paid trial. Try it out, and if you don't love it, no hard feelings. You're taking on all the risk, so you've got to be confident in what you're selling. Next up is the conditional guarantee, and this is where you can get really smart and creative. Here, to qualify for the guarantee, the customer has to do a few things, like they have to show up to all the coaching calls, or they have to use the software every day for a month. And this is brilliant because it actually makes them do the work they need to do to get the result they paid you for in the first place. The formula for a great conditional guarantee is so simple, but it's just pure genius. It's not just we guarantee you'll get this result. No, it's if you do the work and you don't get X result in Y amount of time, then we will do Z. That Z part, the or what, that's what gives the guarantee all its power. All right, we've been talking a lot about making these big, bold guarantees, but what if the strongest, most powerful move you could make is to offer no guarantee at all? I know it sounds a little crazy, but just stay with me here. This is called the anti-guarantee, and it works by sending a very powerful psychological signal. You're saying, listen, this information is so valuable or this product is so exclusive that the second you get your hands on it, the value has been transferred. We can't take it back. It implies scarcity and immense value, and it can actually make people want it more. And finally, we have the implied guarantee. This is any kind of performance deal. I mean, think about it. A revenue share or a profit share agreement is the ultimate guarantee, right? It says, if I don't make you money, I don't make money. It creates this perfect alignment where you're both on the same team, rowing in the same direction. But here's where the real fun begins. You don't have to just pick one of these. In fact, the real magic happens when you start combining them and giving them a name that people can't forget. So you can stack guarantees to create this incredible multi-layered offer. For example, you could offer a 30-day, no questions asked guarantee just to get them in the door, and then stack a 90-day conditional guarantee on top of it. This just screams confidence. It shows you are dead serious about getting them a result. And please, please name your guarantee something memorable. Don't just call it a satisfaction guarantee. Give it a name that paints a picture. Now, this example is obviously outrageous, but I bet you will never, ever forget it, and that's the whole point. Here is an absolutely insane real-world example from a marketer named Jason Fladlien. He sold an e-commerce course, and his guarantee was that if you did all the work and didn't make money, he would literally buy your store from you for 25 grand. The result? He made an extra $3 million in sales and only had to pay out on 10 refunds. That's a mind-blowing return. So we've walked through the different types, we've looked at the math, we've covered the strategy. Now it's time to put all this knowledge into action for your business. I want you to just pause for a second and really truly think about this. Right before someone is about to click buy on your stuff, what is that one single biggest fear that's holding them back? What's the negative outcome they're terrified is going to happen? Because this is the entire secret. This is the whole game. The best guarantees in the world aren't just generic promises. They are surgical strikes aimed directly at your customer's biggest, most specific fear. Your job is to find that fear, name it, and then build a promise that makes it completely vanish. So the question I want to leave you with is this. What is that one specific, powerful promise that you could make, the thing you could guarantee, that would make your ideal customer feel absolutely stupid for saying no? Find the answer to that, and you've found your golden ticket.
You know that feeling, right? You create something you are so proud of, something you know is amazing, and then nothing. Just crickets. It's a feeling a lot of us know all too well. Today, we're going to dig into how the name of your offer can literally be the difference between getting ignored and having a massive success. And it all comes down to a really simple 5-letter formula.
And that leads us right to this super frustrating question. You've poured your heart, your soul, your time into creating a fantastic product or a truly valuable service, but nobody's biting. The phone's not ringing, your inbox is empty. So what gives?
I think this quote just hits the nail on the head. A phenomenal offer that nobody understands or gets excited about is, well, it's basically invisible. It seriously doesn't matter how great your product is if you can't get people to pay attention. It really is all about perception.
And here's the big, game-changing idea. The problem probably isn't your actual offer. It's the packaging. It's the presentation. It is, as the source material calls it, the wrapper.
This little diagram here shows the concept perfectly. Just look at it. The magical offer inside that box, it never changes. The core value is exactly the same in all 3 steps. The only thing that's different is the wrapper, the name and the branding that makes it feel fresh, exciting, and like it's made for a specific person.
Let's make this super real. Be honest. Which one of these sounds more appealing to you? A float tank session? Meh. Or a free 6-week stress release challenge? They could be the exact same thing. But that second one, it creates intrigue, it promises a clear result, and it has a time frame. It's just a way better wrapper.
So how do you create that irresistible wrapper? Well, thankfully, you don't have to guess. There's a formula for it. It's called the MAGIC headline formula, and it's a systematic way to build a name that just grabs your ideal customer by the collar.
And here it is, the whole shebang. MAGIC, magnet, avatar, goal, interval, and container. These are our 5 building blocks. Now, the secret isn't to cram all 5 in every single time. It's about combining, say, 3 to 5 of them to create something that's just irresistible. Let's break them down one by one.
It all kicks off with M for magnet. This is your hook. This is the big reason why this offer even exists right now. It immediately answers that little voice in your customer's head that's asking, okay, why are they giving me such a great deal?
And that reason can be pretty much anything. You've got the obvious attention grabbers like free or a giveaway, but it can also be tied to an event, like a grand opening, a New Year's special, or a spring sale. It just gives people a reason to pay attention now.
Okay, next up, A for avatar. Now this one is absolutely crucial. This is where you call out exactly who this offer is for. Think about it. When someone sees themselves in your description, it feels personal. It feels like it was tailor-made just for them. Specificity is your best friend here, for sure.
So don't just say business owners. No, get specific. Brick-and-mortar businesses or salon owners. Don't say parents, say Rolling Hills moms. This kind of super specific language makes your ideal client feel seen. And just as important, it filters out everybody else.
All right, next is G for goal. This is the heart of the promise. This is the juicy part. What is that dream outcome your customer is secretly, desperately wishing for? You've got to spell out the result, the feeling, the transformation they're going to get.
Really think about what they want deep down. Is it to finally be pain-free? Is it to land that very first client? Or maybe it's something bigger, more aspirational, like getting a celebrity smile. This is what connects your offer directly to their deepest desires.
The I stands for interval. And let me tell you, adding a time frame is so powerful. It instantly manages expectations and implies that results can happen in a specific, often pretty fast period of time. It makes that big goal feel so much more real and so much more attainable.
A 21-day challenge feels manageable, right? It doesn't feel like some endless commitment. A 6-week transformation sounds concrete and doable. The simple little addition adds a huge layer of clarity and even a bit of urgency.
And finally, the last piece of our MAGIC puzzle, C is for container. This is the word that kind of packages everything together. It makes your offer feel like a complete, thought-out system, not just some one-off thing. And that elevates the perceived value like crazy.
Words like challenge, blueprint, or bootcamp imply there's a structured process. Masterclass or accelerator sounds premium, right? Like a high-value experience. This isn't just a service anymore. It's a whole solution.
Okay, so we've looked at all the individual pieces. Now, let's see what happens when we actually start putting them together. This is where it all clicks. This is where the magic happens.
Let's look at these. For a wellness business. Free, that's our magnet. 6-week, that's the interval. Lean by Halloween, that's the goal. Challenge, there's our container. See? Perfect. How about a doctor? $2,000 off, that's the magnet. Celebrity smile, that's the goal. Transformation, that's the container. Or for a coach, 5 clients, goal. In 5 days, interval, blueprint, container. You can just see how mixing and matching these elements creates something so much more powerful.
And hey, here's a quick pro tip to make your name even more, sticky. Try using rhyme or alliteration when you can. You don't want to force it and sound cheesy, but when it works, something like six-pack fast track is just way more memorable and kind of fun to say.
Now let's be real, a great name won't stay great forever. Over time, even the best offers can start to lose their punch, especially in smaller local markets. So what do you do when your conversions start to dip? Well, you definitely don't have to reinvent the wheel.
And there's a smart way to handle it. You always start with the lowest hanging fruit. First, just swap out the creative, the images and videos in your ads. If that doesn't do the trick, then you can tweak the body copy. Only then do you change the headline, the wrapper itself. You see the logic here? You start with the easiest, lowest effort changes first. The really big stuff, like changing the price, that should always be your absolute last resort.
This quote really just drives the whole point home, doesn't it? Don't fall victim to lazy naming. I mean, it's that simple.
The name is the front door to your entire offer, and as we've seen, getting it right can completely change the game for you.
So that brings it all back to you. I want you to take a hard look at what you're currently offering. How can you use these 5 components, MAGIC, to create a new wrapper, one that's so clear, so specific, and so compelling that your ideal customer feels like they'd be stupid to say no? What's your MAGIC headline?
You know, everybody talks about making their first million, but what about the first 100,000? It turns out that first chunk of cash isn't just a number, it's a huge psychological wall. So today, we're going to break down that journey to the first 100K, not just as a financial goal, but as the blueprint for literally everything that comes after. Let's dive in.
That's from Charlie Munger, the vice chairman of Berkshire Hathaway, and he does not mince words, does he? He calls it exactly what it is, a brutal, absolutely necessary grind. This quote just perfectly frames that first 100K. It's not some far-off dream. It's a massive barrier that you've got to smash through, no matter what it takes.
So before we even get into the how-to, we really need to understand the why. Why is this first big milestone so incredibly hard? Well, it's all about the intense emotional weight that it carries. And we're going to start with a story that gets right to the very heart of that feeling.
Okay, so let's set the scene. The year is 2017, March to be exact. I want you to just imagine years of grinding, years of pouring every ounce of your being into a business with what feels like very little to show for it. That's the backdrop for this exact moment.
This is so much more than just stress, you know? This is the physical feeling of years of bottled up pressure, of ignoring the fear and just putting one foot in front of the other, day after day. You can almost feel that knot in your own throat, that sense that something is about to break.
And this is it. This is what it looks like when all those years of struggle, of wondering, is this ever going to pay off? It's all boiling over in one single intense moment. The pressure is just immense, and something has to give.
And here's the turn. Now pay close attention to the distinction he makes. This isn't revenue, money that can just vanish with the next payroll or business expense. No, this is money in their personal bank accounts. It's real. It's theirs. It's actual wealth.
$101,018. Let that number sit there for a second. It's not a nice, clean, round number. It's specific, it's tangible, and for them, this was the finish line of a marathon they had been running for years and years.
And this right here is such a crucial insight from that moment. The main emotion wasn't celebration. It wasn't joy. It was the simple, profound lifting of a massive burden. It was relief. It was the end of being afraid.
So what did that relief really mean? It meant the end of the chapter in their lives called struggle. That constant, nagging anxiety, those late-night, what are we going to do conversations that just haunt so many entrepreneurs. They were finally over. They could actually breathe.
And here's what that security looked like in real, concrete terms. Based on their expenses at the time, that $100,000 bought them 3 years of runway. 3 full years of freedom from that terror of running out of money. That's the real power hidden inside that first milestone.
So, okay, that was the emotional reality of getting there, the gut punch. But how in the world did they actually do it? Well, this brings us to the practical game plan behind it all. We're shifting gears now from the why to the how, the Grand Slam blueprint.
The whole strategy really boils down to this: creating a Grand Slam offer. The idea is to build something so valuable and so unique that you can't really compare it to anything else. Think about it. A personal trainer could just sell hour-long sessions. That's a commodity. But a Grand Slam offer? That's a 90-day body transformation guarantee with a custom diet plan, 24/7 tech support, and a full refund if you don't hit your goals. You see, it's about being in a category of one.
And making an offer like that actually follows this 5-step process. First, you get laser-focused on your customer's dream outcome. What do they really truly want? Then, you list out every single thing standing in their way. Step 3, you turn all those problems into solutions that you'll provide. Fourth, you figure out the vehicle, how you'll deliver those solutions. Is it a course, a service? And finally, you trim off anything unnecessary and just stack the value so high that it becomes an absolute no-brainer.
So look, the most important thing in part 1 of this blueprint is to stop competing on price. You do that by making your offer totally unique, not some commodity people can just shop around for. You pick a market that's growing, so the wind is at your back, not in your face, and then you charge a lot of money, a premium price, because you're not just selling a thing, you're selling a real transformation. And you justify that price by stacking on so much value that for the right person, it becomes the only logical choice.
All right, part 2 is all about the psychology of the sale. You've got this perfect offer, but now you got to drive demand. This means using powerful triggers like scarcity, hey, only 5 spots left, and urgency, the price goes up tomorrow, to get people to act now. You throw in strategic bonuses to make the deal even sweeter, and then, and this is so critical, you completely reverse the buyer's risk with a rock-solid guarantee. The goal here is simple. You want to make people feel stupid for saying no.
Okay, so we've got the emotional side of it and we have the tactical playbook. But what does it take from you to actually pull this off? Well, this last piece of the puzzle is all about the internal journey, the skills, the beliefs, and the character traits that you've got to build.
You know, you can learn one of 2 ways. You can learn from experience, which, yeah, it's effective, but it's often brutal and incredibly slow. Or you can speed things up by absorbing high-quality information from people who have already walked the path. It's really about choosing the kinder, more direct route to getting the skills you need to win.
And this is just such a powerful reminder, especially when you're building out that grand slam offer we talked about. Success isn't just about having a big idea. The greats are separated from everybody else by how well they master the details. That deep knowledge of their customers' pain points and the little nuances of the solutions, that's where the real magic, the real value is created.
Ultimately, this whole journey isn't just about building personal wealth, it's about taking responsibility. This quote frames entrepreneurship as a mission, a way to actively innovate and build a better future. Because, let's be real, no one else is going to do it for us.
And so we end with this. We started with a story of what that breakthrough felt like for one person: relief, security, the end of the long struggle. So now, the question gets turned back to you. As you start on your own journey, what will that moment feel like for you?
You know, what if there was just one single idea that could take a business from the absolute edge of disaster to making millions of dollars? Well, today, that's exactly what we're diving into. We're going to break down a core concept from Alex Hormozi's book, $100 Million Offers. And trust me, it's a secret so powerful it could totally change how you think about selling, well, anything.
Okay, so to really get the power of this idea, we've got to go back in time to a very specific moment. Picture this. It's December 24th, 2016, Christmas Eve, and for entrepreneur Alex Hormozi, this was pretty much the lowest point you could imagine.
And look, this isn't some made-up story. That's a real screenshot of his actual bank account. He had just pulled in $120,000 in sales, which sounds great, right? But the payment processor decided to hold every single penny. On top of that, he still had to pay his salesman a $22,000 commission. He paid it, and this is what was left, just over $1,000.
I mean, can you just imagine that level of desperation? He was facing total failure. So he turned to his girlfriend, Lila, and he said those exact words. He was completely out of money, literally living in her parents' playroom, and had nothing left except a credit card and an idea.
So, how in the world do you get from that moment of utter defeat to building a business portfolio worth over $100 million? Well, it all came down to one simple piece of advice he'd gotten years before. This was the secret that was about to turn everything around.
His mentor, a guy named TJ, told him, "Make people an offer so good they would feel stupid saying no." It sounds so simple, doesn't it? But that one sentence completely changed how he looked at business. He realized, hey, this isn't about being a slicker salesperson. It's about the offer itself, the structure of what you're actually selling. So let's be super clear. What is an offer? It's not just your product. It's the whole package, the goods, the services, the payment terms, the guarantees, the whole shebang. This right here is the absolute lifeblood of your business. A bad offer means you're going to struggle. A good offer means you might survive. But a grand slam offer, well, that changes the entire game.
Now here's the problem. Most businesses get this completely wrong. They fall into this deadly trap, this villain that just silently kills their profit margins and chokes their growth. It's called the race to the bottom.
Think of it like this. Every business can take one of 2 paths. On the left, you're just a commodity. Your customers look at you and your competitors and think, these are all basically the same thing, I'll just buy the cheapest one.
That is a brutal race to zero profit. But on the right, you've got a value-driven offer. You're different. You're in a category of one, and suddenly comparing you on price is totally impossible. Okay, let's put some real-world numbers on this. Here's a typical ad agency with a standard commodity-type offer. They go out and spend $10,000 on ads, and they only bring in $5,000 in cash up front. They are literally losing money just to get a new customer. This is that race to the bottom in action, and it's a cash flow nightmare that kills businesses every single day.
So how do you escape this trap for good? Well, you stop playing the same game as everybody else. You create what Hormozi calls a grand slam offer.
A grand slam offer is designed from the ground up to be so good, so packed with value and unique bonuses and powerful guarantees that it becomes, well, incomparable. It just completely removes you from the price war and puts you in that category of one we talked about, where you get to set the price based on the massive value you're providing.
So what's the actual bottom line impact of switching from that broken commodity model to a grand slam offer? The difference is, it's just staggering. For the exact same 10 grand in ad spend, you're looking at collecting 22.4 times more cash right up front.
Now, you're probably wondering, how is that even possible? Well, let's break it down. The Grand Slam offer is way more appealing, so you get a 2.5 times better response rate. It's packed with so much value that your closing rate is over 2 times higher. And because you're in a category of one, you can charge 4 times the price. You just multiply all that together and boom, that's how you get that insane 22.4 times more cash in your pocket.
And this right here, this is the whole point. This is the big takeaway. With a Grand Slam offer, your business model completely flips on its head. You actually get paid to get new customers. The single biggest thing that holds most businesses back, running out of money for marketing, is just gone. It's eliminated. And that is the real secret to scaling infinitely.
So, let's bring this all back home. What does this all mean for you? When you look at Hormozi's journey from near bankruptcy to massive success, it really all came down to making this one strategic shift in his thinking. That whole journey, from that desperate Christmas Eve to a multi-million-dollar success story, it all hinged on escaping that commodity trap. So the real question I want to leave you with is this. Is your business competing on price, or are you competing on value? Have you created an offer so good that you are truly in a category of one?